Our next follow-up is the thing that I'm the most excited about in this episode, bar none. Hello nerds, welcome to another episode of The Week in Nerdom, your once weekly, for the moment, pop culture nerd news show where we talk about all of the news worth talking about. I am Dustin, your host. This is my channel, and yeah, we've got some stuff to get into. Before we do that though, don't forget to click that thumbs up button. Let the algorithm gods know that you like what's going on here so that more people can join in the conversation. And now let's hit an intro. So let's get into housekeeping once again. I'm just gonna make this a quickie housekeeping. We're still doing the push. You can find me, Generally Nerdy, on basically every social media platform. We are gearing towards the break time where there will be some downtime for me to make changes and adapt and update things for a new season. All of that being said, let's get to those shout outs. Today's shout outs section is not brought to you by an energy drink at all. It is a Bragg's apple cider vinegar refresher. I love it. Starting off the shoutouts section, we are going to go with the Twitter first. We have a Tylore MGB. I believe you actually follow me on other platforms as well there, Mr. Tylore. So thank you very much, or Tylore, I apologize. Thank you very much for the follow, nerd. Spooky Guy 08 also follows on the Twitter now, so welcome to the fold, nerd. We're going to move next to TikTok. There's a couple here that I'm going to have issues pronouncing, and I apologize ahead of time. Thereforehaku, Roger Riviera 06, Lena Scott 990, Thick God 1, Elizabeth Gould 5, Murica Gaming, Mr. J 1714, and Welcome 2K. Thank you, nerds, very much for following on the TikToks. And oh wait, there's still more. Oh no, that's all Instagram. Never mind. Instagram is next. We're gonna do Canes51 LOC, ashton.barrow, Blue Alien 070707707. What's Wrong With You Cast? I actually just did a special edition episode with the What's Wrong With You Cast, so thank you very much, Jeremy, for following. And then Stacy Christina, I believe, is that one. That one just came in, so I wrote it down. It is not typed. I can't read my handwriting sometimes. Thank you very much, nerds, for the follows. I do believe that is everything that we have for housekeeping. Just, yeah, be aware, Halloween is coming, so things will be happening for that as well. That being said, let's get into the news. Music news starts us off. We are in a time where I don't have a whole lot of follow-ups in the music section still, but we do have some new music to talk about. So let's do some reaction reviews real quick. Just a real quick reminder, these are not proper reactions as they are done in the past tense. I watched the video either this morning or yesterday, and so I'm just giving you my initial impressions, I guess is probably a more accurate way of putting it, but initial impressions for a music video is not something that is easily searchable in any of the algorithms, so I have to label it as a reaction. But yeah, so proper reactions will continue. I'm still working out a lot of scheduling things and still working out the insurance to take care of the car accident that I was in a month ago. Anyway, let's get into new music, and I promise eventually I will stop rambling. Our first video for reaction review post whatever is Arch Enemy's new song. It's called Deceiver. So I used to have an appreciation for Arch Enemy long ago when Angela Glasso was the vocalist for that band. I would never count myself among their hardcore fans, but I at least had a passing appreciation for what they did. I haven't listened a whole lot since Angela left and is now, I can't remember the name of the vocalist now. She used to sing for somebody else. My brain is not remembering words right now, but either way, Christina Grace Lutz or something like that. This song didn't, oh man. If you like mediocre music, and generally speaking, that is a bad thing, but I openly admit that I like mediocre music in the genres that I like, generally speaking. That being said, I'm going to continue the thought. If you like your genres mediocre, if you are okay with that, if you can have an appreciation for that, then you will probably like this. This is a very middle of the road song. There is some hardcore rock bass syndrome in here. For those of you that have never watched a proper reaction video with me, rock bass syndrome is when either the bass player isn't playing anything to set him apart from the guitars, or the producer folds them too low into the mix and you can't hear them even though they are playing something like that. And this kind of honestly sounds like a little bit of both, just because of the general style. A lot of bass players in this style don't really have a whole lot of room to play, or don't really take the room, I guess is more appropriate. So definitely what is going on here. If you are already a fan of Arch Enemy, then you'll probably dig this track. I don't think this is making them any new fans, though. That's all I really got to say about that one. Next, we're moving into another new Mastodon track. The name of this one is Sickle and Peace. It is off of their forthcoming record, just like the last one we talked about. This is more, I would say more of the same, because by and large there is a lot of that same feeling from the last track that we did the review for, or the reaction to. So it definitely feels like it belongs on the same record, but this one kind of steps it up a little bit, and I definitely have a strong appreciation for that. So what I mean by that is there are sections of this song that are much more aggressive, much more hearkening back to the earlier days of the band, which is what I want them to do. I just want them to do another crazy heavy record. I don't think it's in the cards, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about this new song, and there's really nothing wrong here. There's everything that they do expertly. The real question here is this going to be something that is going to earn them new fans? If you've never heard of Mastodon and you heard this song on the radio, what would you think? Well, you would probably appreciate it, assuming you like things a little heavier and a little proggier, but I really don't think this is bringing in any new fans either. I love Mastodon. I think Mastodon does amazing work. I think they need to mix something up and get a little, I don't know, it feels like they're starting to plateau. And they felt like this before in the past, and they've pulled it out. We got Crack the Sky when that happened, so then they got all kinds of crazy recognition, and people loved them all over again. Die Hard fans even love that record. So yeah, I feel like this record is going to be a good prog record. This song right in the middle of all of that. But the next record I feel like should be something crazy and outlandish, which is just me wishful thinking. So yeah, that's what we've got on that one. Our final reaction is a band I honestly kind of had a lot of anticipation for. So without getting too far into this before we mention them, the name of the band is Vended. The reason I had great anticipation for this band is because there are two children of two musicians I admire greatly. Sean Crahan and Corey Taylor, both of their sons are in this band, playing their respective instruments as well. Sean's kid is playing the drums, Corey's kid is singing. This song, there are moments of promise. Now, it should be noted that these kids are definitely teenagers still. I think maybe the oldest member of this band might be 20 years old. I don't know for certain. I didn't look that part up, but that is kind of where they are in their emotional and psychological development. So the fact that they have famous fathers who, dabble in philosophy and art and things like that probably helps, but they are still teenagers. And also, that can't be completely discounted because the first Protest the Hero record came out when most of that band were still teenagers as well. So, I mean, that kind of gives you a little bit of a footing. So, This song, and this is the first song I've heard from Vended. They have released other singles that I still have yet to listen to, but I'm going strictly based on this song. This song has moments of promise, has moments of our parents taught us well, and so we're going to take what they taught us and make it into our own thing. There are moments of that. Most of them are very, very fleeting, but you do hear those influences from their fathers in here for sure. The rest of this song, aside from those moments, is really kind of boring. Alright, so the name of the song, I can't believe I didn't say that. Name of the song is Burn My Misery. I apologize, but I specifically chose this song because that is kind of a corny title, right? So I was looking to see if they went for the corny lyrics that would follow that title. And to my surprise, they did not. So that is definitely to their benefit. But as far as just the performances go on this track, it's really like 2 minutes too long. I think it clocks in at just over 5 minutes, and there's meandering. There is definitely, if they could have cut out even a minute and a half, if they could trim that down from the song, it might be something a little bit more invigorating. It might be something more enthusiastic, something you would want to listen to a little bit more. But as it stands, it kind of wanders and meanders, and it gets to these interesting parts, and then it leaves them just as fast. So by and large, these kids, I mean, this is their first record. They do have music in their blood, as it were. So there is still a lot of hope. I just don't think this is the record that they're going to blow up on, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just learn from this and grow on the next one, and then we'll talk. Speaking of Slipknot, let's move over to tours. We do have an update on the Slipknot tour that is currently happening. There is going to be a live streamed event at the end of this tour. It's happening in California. The entire bill is going to be on this stream, so you're not just paying for Slipknot's performance. You're paying for Code Orange, you're paying for Fever 333, you're paying for Killswitch Engage, and there's a special guest who I honestly forgot who it was because I didn't include it in the notes, but there is a special guest. So those 3 bands right there are totally enough to justify this. It's $15 if you get tickets in advance. If you buy tickets the day of, it is $20. So relatively cheap, especially considering you get the entire bill's worth of bands. Plus, if you can't watch it on November 5th when it streams, then you have 72 hours to watch it when you will, when you please, as it works out best for your work schedule. You have 3 days to watch the show. So that's pretty awesome. Definitely, again, those 3 bands, Code Orange, Killswitch, and Slipknot, are worth $15 for a live performance. I miss the days when it was just $15 to go see these guys. So yeah, definitely worth a watch, especially if you are into the heaviness. But that is what we have for tours. We do have a couple of news pieces, and one of those news pieces is going to be one of 2 reasonably nerdy sections for the day. So let's get into the first one, and that is Rise Against has just announced a new EP. Releasing November 12th. It is called Nowhere Sessions. Presumably it was recorded in Fort Collins Blasting Room, Fort Collins, Colorado, because that's where they've recorded the last 5 records they've done. Listened to one of the first tracks on this record, and honestly, I was never a huge Rise Against fan to begin with. There are a couple of tracks that I really dig. There's a couple of the deeper cuts that are like, all right, I can get behind this, but by and large, not a big fan. This is not doing them any favors, primarily because the mixing is so poorly done. It sounds like they recorded the entire thing live, but not live in studio, like live on stage, and then there was just no crowd there. It's just, there's a lot of weird things that if you don't know what you're listening for, you wouldn't necessarily be able to point out, but they still will sit weird in your ears, and this is not a record for me. But if you like Rise Against, then maybe you will disagree with me, and by all means do, and tell me down in the comments. But That being said, again, November 12th is the official release date for this new EP. And our final piece in music is a reasonably nerdy piece. This one technically could have gone in gaming and tech, but gaming and tech is a little big this week, so we put it in music. It also deals with a musician, so it's appropriate. All right, so I'm going to give you the news piece, and then we're going to put those reasonably nerdy caps on. So the news piece has to do with the current situation with Blizzard and their multitude of lawsuits against them from former employees and some current employees, having to do with the toxic work environment in which a lot of these people were forced to work. There is, reason to believe most of those have grounds and basis for the actual suits. There is reason to believe that a lot of the upper-ups at Blizzard were really just horrible, horrible people. So that is what it is. Now, kinda sort of attached to this, there is a little bit of history we gotta go back onto as well, which is Corpsegrinder, who is the vocalist from Cannibal Corpse. So, Corpsegrinder has an NPC in the World of Warcraft game named after him because he is something of a celebrity and he is a very vocal user on World of Warcraft. He makes no bones about the fact that he is a bit of a nerd, and that he is a big World of Warcraft fan. He is Horde all the way, and we're going to get into that ever so briefly. So, in 2007, it is unclear to me, and I couldn't really decipher how this video came into being, but it does appear that he was interviewed in some fashion in 2007. All right, so that year is going to be very key in this. So in 2007, when World of Warcraft was still relatively new, it had been out for a few years, but not super, super long. Definitely not as long as it has been now, because it's been a long time. So he made some comments that were a little off color. He definitely was referencing things in a negative manner, and he was using certain epithets that usually are reserved for people who are pig-headed and stubborn and kind of backwoods by today's standards, by 2021 standards. So he makes these comments, and he also, I should mention, he also did use that one F word that nobody is ever supposed to use, even if you are talking about, cigarettes. So, Corpsegrinder is asked questions about playing World of Warcraft. He answers in the fashion in which you would expect the vocalist from a band called Cannibal Corpse to respond. In 2011, so 4 years later, Blizzard at BlizzCon played this video of him doing this. I believe that was to announce the creation of his NPC. So at BlizzCon 2011, 4 years after he made the comments, Blizzard themselves played the clip with him using these borderline offensive words, by and large. The one is, I will give you, the one is an offensive word. But the rest of the comments he made were borderline offensive at best. I think Finn McKenty put it the best when he said that, honestly, in 2007, anyway, we're going to get to that point. And so, Blizzard plays this, and now Blizzard is in trouble in 2021, 10 years after they played this video. In 2021, they are trying to deflect as much as possible, so they say, hey, look, guys, I know we're in all kinds of trouble because we did horrible things, but we canceled canceled is probably a strong word as well, but we changed this thing because this other person did horrible things as well. Do we earn brownie points yet? I'm sorry, Blizzard, but no, you don't. That is not even kind of the same. What Corpsegrinder. All right, so let's before I get too far ahead of myself, reasonably nerdy caps on. All right, let's get into this. How many people on the internet, are even calling for this change to begin with? Probably a couple of blue check marks on Twitter, and that's about it. Because again, borderline offensive is really all you can give most of what was said in this video. So in 2007, how many of those people all weren't also making similar comments? This is absolutely absurd to me. So the reasonable thing, and again, Finn McKenty in his video about this definitely put this in much more eloquent terms than I can in this improv video, but Finn, Corpsegrinder in 2007 said some stupid things. Most of us in 2007 said some stupid things that we probably don't believe in anymore. Why should we have to hold somebody's feet to the fire? That's not even holding them responsible. Holding somebody responsible is, hey, you did this thing that I don't agree with, and I think it is bad, and pretty much the rest of society also thinks it was bad. What do you have to say for yourself? If the response to that is, well, I'm not going to apologize, I thought it was funny, well then maybe there should be some sort of negative reaction. If the response is, yeah, it was pretty stupid, I don't really believe that kind of stuff anymore, then let's move on with our lives, shall we? To his credit, Corpsegrinder has not come out and apologized for this yet. As well, I don't think he should have to. Honestly, what did you expect from a guy who sings for a band called Cannibal Corpse? This is the same band, and I'm not even gonna say, just look up some of the song titles from Cannibal Corpse. Song titles, not even lyrics, song titles from the band called Cannibal Corpse, and you will see that the expectation for this person to perform by 2021 standards in a social realm really is unrealistic. Yes, I realize that the metal community is kind of dealing with these things right now, but that's silly. That is absolutely ridiculous. There is no reason involved in the argument against Corpsegrinder. There is no reason why Blizzard had to do what they did to the character named after Corpsegrinder. The reasonable thing here is, does he stand by those words? If not, okay, good. If so, still, it was 15 years ago, more than that now at this point, about 14 years ago, I apologize, but still, 14 years ago, I feel like we should judge him by his current character and not his character half a lifetime ago. But that's just me. Maybe I'm a jerk. And yeah, that's the end of the reasonably nerdy section for now. So all of that being said, let's move right along. Our next section is gaming and tech, and I called it... it was kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy, partially because I did slightly more research in this section this week, but also partially because we legitimately had some tech things happen over the last week that are huge. And I don't know, maybe it was premonition, maybe it was just because I knew I was going to do slightly more research this week. Either way, we've got a full section for gaming and tech. So let's start with the follow-ups. Our first follow-up is a Halo follow-up. We do have Halo Infinite later in the trailers section as well, but this is not Infinite. This is Xbox 360 Halo. In the news for Xbox 360 Halo, January 13th is a date that if you are still playing your Xbox 360 Halo games, any of them, then you should know that on January 13th of 2022, you will no longer be able to play online, as they're going to be shutting down those servers for the Xbox 360 games and gearing them over to Infinite and Master Chief Collection and other future projects. So those resources are going to be repurposed, and you will no longer be able to play your non-Master Chief Collection games of the previous games online. It's unfortunate, but it is what it is. We gotta just keep going, man. I mean, there are the flaws for Master Chief Collection, sure, but it's pretty dang close to the original experience, so I don't see why anyone would have a problem with that, but I'm rambling. Let's keep going. So, like I said, we are still talking Halo, but we are in trailers now. We got technically 2 new Halo trailers. A story tease kind of trailer and also a campaign trailer. So we got to see some more gameplay. This is gearing up to look amazing. Link down in the description if you want to watch it and you have not already. I am super excited for December 8th. I want it to happen so bad. Moving along, our next trailer actually is a bit of an update and follow-up in and of itself as well, but Apex Legends has dropped the trailer for Season 11, and that gives us some information on the new legend, Ash. So, Ash, we're going to go over her abilities first. So we have her Marked for Death passive ability, where she can see where people have recently died and also see survivors surrounding that death area. The next is Arc Snare, her first ability. Looks pretty freaking awesome. Basically, you're setting a trap, so when your enemies try to run away from you, they get ensnared with the net snare and they can't move, and you can snipe them out. So that's pretty dang cool. And then her big ability is Phase Breach. Phase Breach is basically similar to what you get with Wraith, only you can only go one direction, and it's basically you're just teleporting to across the map, and that's also pretty epic, though I think her secondary power is going to be a little bit more useful. That's Arc Snare. It looks real awesome. Honestly, I think she's going to be the next legend I buy just because that's badass. We also have a new weapon, the CAR SMG. And we have a new map, Storm Point, which, you know, has been kind of everywhere. So all of these things we see in the trailer, if you want to follow the link in the description. I'm super excited about it. It does roll out November 2nd. We will get all of these new things, and presumably some new game types as well, but that remains to be seen. So now let's jump into news proper for gaming and tech. Our first one is gaming news, and that is A Quiet Place is getting a video game. So the development team of studios that is behind this is Saber Interactive, iLLOGIKA, and Epitome. No release date has been given for it just yet. We do know it's going to be out in 2022 sometime. And we also know that it is going to be a survival horror game. And we know that it is not going to be based specifically on either of the two movies that exist. It is only going to be based in the world that those two movies created. So that's pretty freaking epic, and that's all we've got, so we're moving on. Our next one, we're moving into tech. Our last three pieces are going to be tech related. So first up, we're talking about new cameras, and new cameras. The reason we're talking about this is because, I mean, we're on YouTube, right? Cameras are pretty freaking important, or we're on whatever platform you're on. But either way, cameras are important. So DJI, who most notably produces gimbals and drones and so on and so forth, they have released a cinema camera called the DJI Cinema 4D. What does 4D mean? Well, it has another axis of stabilization. So basically, it's like a gimbal built into a cinema camera, and it looks amazing. Kind of looks like some sort of weird robot chicken thing, especially when it's moving in certain directions, but this is just a giant game changer. I could not find release date or pricing just yet, though they did say that it is going to be priced, quote, competitively. What they're competing with, what they think they're competing with, though, still remains to be seen, because probably isn't going to be proper cinema cameras, because it doesn't have quite that much performance in it, and it doesn't make sense for them to be competing with more top-end mirrorless cameras, because then this would absolutely blow it out of the water. So there's a lot of gray as far as who they're marketing this towards, and we will figure that out and keep you posted. Then we are going to stay in the realm of cameras. We have the newest announcement from Sony. The Sony A7 IV is coming out. It's happening. They finally have review models in the hands of people who are much more lucky than I. It looks like this is going to be, if you are a creator of any kind, this is going to be the camera to get in so many ways. Full frame, 422 capabilities as far as the quality of the image in that full frame camera, which is huge in a budget-friendly camera. It's going to be $2,500 for the body, presumably somewhere around $3,000 for the body with a kit lens. This is, if you are a creator and you want to get into creating, this is a great camera to do that. It is a little pricey when you think of it as your first camera, but you can always get something cheaper and work your way up. This is going to be a workhorse for a lot of channels on YouTube, for sure. And our final piece of gaming and tech news is tech related as well. Like I said, this one has to do with Zoom though, so it's more software and less hardware. Zoom is rolling out closed caption options for everyone now. So even if you have a free Zoom account, which probably 90% of the developed world does at this point, then you will have the option of turning on subtitles or closed captions or whatever, since they're basically the same thing. You'll be able to turn those on even with your free account. Previously, this was only for people who were paying for the account, but I don't know, it's gotten to the point where they have enough information, they think it is ready for a mass rollout. So very excited to see what happens there. This is pretty huge for accessibility and such. So that, though, brings us to the end of Gaming and Tech, nerds. Comic books and books, we got a couple of things to talk about this time. First up is actually toy related. McFarlane Toys just announced a whole bunch of new statues. A lot of Batman stuff that looks pretty awesome. We have 3 Jokers figures, we have Batman statues from the Robert Pattinson Batman, also from Batman Noir, a bunch of stuff. Go check out the link down in the description for the complete list. It's seriously huge, but that's what we've got on that one. And then our only other piece of comic book news has to do with also Todd McFarlane, Gunslinger Spawn. The book that was supposed to come out last week, as you're watching now, should be hitting comic book shelves because there was a paper shortage. All of this stuff with the shipping crates out in the oceans is affecting everyone, and Image Comics was not an exception to that rule. They did not have enough paper to print the covers because that's where they are, sitting out in a shipping container somewhere. So they have them now, they are printed, they should, like I said, be hitting shelves as you are listening to or watching me speak. That, though, is all of comic books and books. So let's run and jump into TV streaming. So we have one follow-up here on TV streaming. That is Raised by Wolves, the epic Ridley Scott series on HBO Max is officially well, I guess we already knew it was officially getting a sequel or a second season, but we now have a little bit of teasers and some sort of window for release. 2022, I believe they said early, first half, I guess is more appropriate for 2022. And we've seen a couple of clips in the lead up to Dune. If you watched Dune on your HBO Max account, then you saw the clips from that. Yeah, huge, super awesome. Very excited about it. Moving on. We actually... In the notes, I don't have this because it literally just happened since I printed my notes and was getting ready to film. They finally released a proper trailer for season 1 of the Netflix live action Cowboy Bebop. So, this looks promising. In spite of the things we've already covered that we know are going to be issues jumping from Jump Street. So in spite of that, this definitely, it kind of has this weird almost anime feel with all of the atmospheres and the backgrounds and all that stuff. It seems like their artists that designed this stuff definitely did so with that anime feel involved. This is kind of easing some of those worries. The worries are still there, don't get me wrong, but like, I don't know, this feels like it could be a move in the right direction, hopefully. But we don't know yet because it's not out, so we're gonna move on. So, Next, we're talking about actual news in TV streaming, and the biggest piece probably for this episode is the announcement that Hayden Christensen is going to be in the Ahsoka series, and kind of related to that, well, kind of, something that we could infer because that was announced, is that the Ahsoka series is not on hold after all. Remember, there were rumors saying that the Ahsoka series was going to be on hold because Rosario Dawson and her issues and the things and the stuff and cancellation and whatever. We know that none of that, at least most of that, was not accurate because they are going into early stages of production at this point if they're already announcing that Hayden Christensen's Anakin and Darth Vader are going to be in the Ahsoka series. So that is definitely going to pique some interests, maybe. All right, so moving from that, we have one final note in TV streaming, and this one is a downer, unfortunately. Friends actor James Michael Tylor, has officially lost his battle with prostate cancer, and he has passed at the age of 59. Gunther, if you don't know who I'm talking about, he was the guy who played Gunther, and he will be missed. So, real quick moment for Gunther. Movie section, short but sweet. We got a couple of follow-ups. We got one trailer and one piece of news. So first follow-up has to do with Batgirl. We got the official announcement that Brendan Fraser has been cast as the villain in Batgirl. He is going to be the main villain. Now, who that villain is going to be still remains part of some conjecture and speculation, so we are not going to talk about that in this section, but the next section, you know, rumors and such. So that is where we are with that follow-up. And then our next follow-up is the thing that I'm the most excited about in this episode, bar none, is that Dune 2 has officially been greenlit. Legendary Pictures announced it this morning as I was finishing up my research. So yesterday morning, as you're listening to me speak now, they have officially announced that Dune 2 will be a thing, and Denis Villeneuve, being the genius that he is, it gets to at least complete this much of the Dune story. So I couldn't be more excited. Stay tuned for my Dune review. Being a bit of a fan, I feel like it was a necessary thing. So that is what we have for follow-ups, though. Let's get into the one trailer we're going to be discussing, and that is Clerk. It's a documentary about Kevin Smith and kind of his rise. So a lot of the information, the reason we're talking about this now is a lot of the information that it looks like we're going to be getting in this documentary about Kevin Smith is already things that he's talked about ad nauseum in his live shows and in the Evening with Kevin Smith DVDs and so on and so on and so forth. But there is a bit of a different spin on it because every instance there is just Kevin telling his version of the story. In this documentary, though, we get Kevin Smith and all of the other people, well, most of the other people involved in those stories are all going to be telling the stories together. So, yeah, that seems definitely worth a watch if you are a Kevin Smith fan, which I know he's kind of lost a few of those in the last year or so. But yeah, so that's our one trailer, and then our one piece of news has to do with another reasonably nerdy bit. So it was, all right, so before we do that, reasonably nerdy caps on. It was made known that that shooting with Alec Baldwin that took the life of Helena Hutchins on the set of their movie Rust easily could have been avoided. It was released recently that the crew took the prop guns off set and used live rounds in multiple guns, including the one that took Miss Hutchins' life. So the reasonable thing here is that there was easily criminal negligence involved. There is talk that there's going to be potentially be charges brought up against the production staff, specifically the producers, and even more specifically Alec Baldwin himself, because he is the executive producer. He was on set and he's the one that pulled the trigger. It's a horrible thing. And if you would have used some common sense gun control, which I know is something that Hollywood is not a huge fan of these days, this could have been avoided. And that's all we've got to say about that. All right, so picking things back up, we're in the rumor mill now. Rumor mill, we have a confirmation of a previous rumor. I couldn't find the notes, so I don't remember exactly the likelihood that we gave this before, but we did talk about it, and that is the Miss Marvel powers being changed for the Marvels movie. So, in the comic books, Miss Marvel has the power to, as she says it, embiggen, which, if you don't already know, it means basically it's similar to Mr. Fantastic, where she can become larger, but it's a legitimate larger size. She's not stretching what's there. She's creating more of what's there to become larger. Certain body parts and so on and so forth. And beyond that, I don't really read a whole lot of Miss Marvel, so I don't really know what other powers she has, but that's the power in which we're talking about today. The movie is going to have her powers be a little bit more similar to the Green Lantern, in that she uses kind of these purple force field projection things to make herself larger and not actually make herself larger. So it is what it is. It's a little bit of a silly semantic change in a way, but I don't know. I don't think that is going to be the big issue with that movie. It's just me. If that is the one big issue, then it's going to be a great movie. But I think there's going to be a lot more issues with it than that. So, moving right into the actual rumors. Our first one has to do with Birds of Prey. We got word that there is going to be another Birds of Prey, according to the rumor. Another Birds of Prey live-action movie that is going to not involve Harley Quinn or Margot Robbie at all. So presumably she won't be playing Harley Quinn. She also won't be producing this one like she did the last one. There's a plethora of reasons that have been given by the quote-unquote insider, but basically it boils down to Warner Brothers thinks that they can do good without Margot, and based on the last two movies that she was in, they might not be wrong. So likelihood for this one that there is going to be another Birds of Prey movie that does not involve Harley Quinn, yeah, 60%. There is still a little bit of wiggle room, and this is not the best source to be reporting from, so that's probably why it didn't get up any higher than that, but there's really very little reason to think anything else would be the case. So there you go. Our next rumor has to do with the new Flashpoint movie. This is actually kind of two rumors. So first up we have, this is going to be their Crisis on Infinite Earths moment where all of the multiverse comes into one universe, and that one universe is going to have one Batman, and that one Batman is going to be Michael Keaton Batman for some reason. So the two rumors, the way we're going to split this, I guess, is the two ways is Crisis on Infinite Earths moment, where we collapse the multiverse on itself, and the other half of this being Michael Keaton is the primary universe Batman. So we're looking at about 70% likely that this is going to be similar. It's not going to 100% collapse the multiverse. I think they are leaning a little too hard on the multiverse these days for that to be the case at all. So the multiverse probably won't 100% collapse, but I think that is going to be some sort of major plot device. As far as Michael Keaton being this world, or the primary Batman for the DC Extended Universe, that's about 40% likelihood. Yes, I do think there will be probably another movie, maybe two, with Michael Keaton in the suit. I just don't think he's going to be the guy going forward. There's way too much playing against that as far as like the way Hollywood works in general. There's very little reason to believe this is a possibility. So that's where we're sitting there. Our next one, we're sticking with DC movies, and we're going back to that Batgirl announcement we talked about in the movies section. Brendan Fraser, the rumor here is that he is going to be playing Firefly, sorry. He is going to be playing Firefly, who we've seen once already in live action on the CW show for the Legends of Tomorrow. Sorry, brain fart. So Legends of Tomorrow, we saw a version of Firefly, and we're going to be seeing Brendan Fraser's version of Firefly as well. So 70% likelihood, yeah. The source on this one is really solid. It is just the one source, which is why I couldn't bring it up any higher than 70%, but it's very, very likely that's the character he's going to be playing. And then our final rumor, we're also splitting in half a little bit. Warner Brothers, sticking with them, is giving us a new fighting video game, as I'm sure you have heard already. The developer for this game is unknown, and the other side of this rumor is that the developer is going to be NetherRealm. So rumor is we're going to get a platform style fighter a la Smash Brothers from Warner Brothers using Warner Brothers IPs, and the developer for this game is going to be NetherRealm. Okay, so likelihood that we are going to be getting a game like this from Warner Brothers seems kind of unlikely. There are enough people who are jumping on this who claim to have inside information about it that I did give it a little over halfway. We're looking at about 55% likelihood that this game might exist in the near future. As far as NetherRealm being the developer for this game, no. Absolutely not. I put the likelihood for that one at 10% because that's not like... If it were billed as a fighter, a Warner Brothers fighter that wasn't supposedly going to be competing with Smash Brothers and Nickelodeon All-Stars, then that would be slightly more believable. If it was just going to be a fighting game utilizing Warner Brothers characters, then yeah, it would be a bit, NetherRealm doing that game makes some sense. NetherRealm making a platform-style fighter? No. Just absolute. I would be so shocked if that is what happened with this. So again, 10% is where we're going with that. That is the end of the rumor mill though, nerds. What did I miss? What should we talk about in the next one? Let me know in the comments down below. If though you want to go deeper into the conversation, jump over to the website, generallynerdy.net. Patreon.com/generallynerdy is the place to go. Be a patron, get all of the other things. Thank you very much, nerds. There is going to be stuff that pop up right over there to the side of my face. You can click or tap any of the boxes or the subscribe if you haven't already. Yada, 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 yada. Thank you very much, nerds. I appreciate your faces. Before we go, always remember that if it's generally nerdy, it's probably here.